So I just got done sniffing and I thought that this might be the best time to tell you about this specific story. And it has absolutely nothing to do with either of those. It's actually not the most fun story time that I've ever talked about, as you can tell from the title, but it's something that I've never told anybody before. The only person that knows this story is the person that it happened with. And now you. I've never told family. I've never told any of my friends. And I don't know why. I don't like talking about hard subjects about myself. I don't want people to have this like preconceived notion of me. Like, oh, there's that one story that we know about Mitch. And then they have some view of me, of a certain version of me. And I know that's so silly because why would anyone judge me for this story? Why would anyone try and make me feel bad about this story? And I don't even know that it's that. I just think that I don't want this stigma attached to me. And maybe that's not the right word. I just don't want this story attached to me, or I didn't want it attached to me. Clearly, I'm about to tell the story to millions of people right now. So you are going to think of this story when you think of me. But at this point in my life, I'm tired of holding all of my traumas and hard life stories back, that I'm just gonna come right out with it. And so when I was 19 years old, I was jumped. I was jumped in broad daylight while I was holding hands with a guy I was just on a date with. We both were jumped. So it wasn't just me, but it was because we're gay and because we were holding hands walking through the street. And this was a different time. It was 2011. So being gay still wasn't really that accepted at that time. It was starting to be because like Lady Gaga came out and RuPaul's Drag Race came out a few years earlier. So it was starting to get there, but there was still a lot of homophobia rampant. Trans and all that wasn't even on the card yet. It was still the time of people not accepting gays, and especially in Florida, because I grew up in Florida. And Florida was not the most easy place to grow up as a gay boy. It really was not. I went to school with guys that drove trucks that had Confederate flags on them. So you can imagine the bullying that I endured growing up. And it was a lot. It was a lot. I'm going to tell you every story that I've ever been through that I can even remember. Some of the stuff I've blocked out. To be honest, this story, I completely forgot about it until a few years ago when something kind of triggered my memory. And I guess I'm just really good at blocking out traumas, and I've had a lot of it. So a lot of my memory is fragmented, but the more that I tell these stories and the more that I think about it, the more that they come back. And so let's begin with this story. Okay, so I was 19 years old. I was in hair school in Tampa, Florida. I went to Paul Mitchell. And during that time, I also had a job at like a very part-time job. I'm talking like 1 day a week. School was enough for me. I even went to bartending school during all of this as well. So I only had time for a little bit of work. And now looking back, like how the hell I paid for anything at that time is wild to me, but also things were way cheaper. Like my rent was like $500 a month. So way different. So I had this job at this place called FYE. I don't even know if they're still open anymore. I'm pretty sure most of them closed down, but it was called FYE, or For Your Entertainment. It was a store that sold DVDs and books and CDs and all kinds of stuff like that. And so I worked there part-time, and one of my coworkers, actually, all my coworkers were gay, but one of them in particular introduced me to one of his friends, but it started out just online. This was still the days of MySpace and the beginnings of Instagram. So me and the guy that I was introduced to started talking online. We became MySpace friends, and we were chatting it up and sending pictures and doing the damn thing. We were 19 years old. And then we planned to go on a date. And at this point, I hadn't really been on that many dates with guys. It was mostly just me experimenting as like, not necessarily a new gay, but I hadn't lost my virginity till I was 18. So like a year before that. So I was still very new in the like being with guys world. And so this was one of my first dates. And now thinking about it, it's like, wow, what a great first date this was. And so we met up in Tampa in downtown Ybor, or some people call it Gaybor, because that's where all the gay bars and gay clubs are. And like I said, it was 11 a.m. So it was daylight. We weren't going to the club. We actually met up to go to the movies, and we had food and drinks at Hamburger Mary's, which is a gay restaurant/bar. They host a lot of drag shows and drag bingo and stuff like that at this restaurant. So it's really well known, and there's multiple of them throughout the country. If they're still open. Again, who knows? After COVID, I feel like everything closed. But we met up, we had dinner, or we had lunch, we had drinks, and we had a really good time. Like, I don't remember what movie we saw, but we saw a movie, and then we were walking back to his place and hook up. That's what we were planning on doing after everything. And so we're walking down the street, we're holding hands, because like I said, we had a really good time. So we were feeling the vibe, we were feeling connected. And so we were walking down the street, hand in hand, broad fucking daylight. And all of a sudden, I just feel myself get hit in the head and fall. And my head slams the ground so hard that I literally black out for a second. And when I come to, I realize how fucked up I am. I'm bruised all over, I'm bleeding, and they started attacking me again once they realized I was awake. And while I was getting attacked, I look over and I see the guy I just went on the date with also getting attacked. Just full on getting kicked and punched and beaten to the fucking ground. Both of us. And a part of me was like, is this real right now? Am I dreaming? Did I just trip and hit my head and now I'm hallucinating? But no. We got beaten up by a group of men for walking on the street holding hands for being gay. And the guy with me definitely got it worse than I did. I did get beaten to the ground. I did get beaten up. I did have marks all over me and blood all over me. And I probably had a concussion, honestly, from how hard I hit my head. But he had the biggest black eye I've ever seen in my life. His eye was like fused shut. And we're both just like shocked. We knew that this happened and that this happened to gays in the world, but did we ever think it would happen to us? And in broad daylight? No. Many would think that I'd be like tearing up and crying right now, but I'm honestly having a hard time like even getting these words out because it just still shocks me so much that that even happened to me and that I'm even saying these words. Because it's like I went through my whole life being bullied and beaten up and tortured and stalked and just destroyed mentally. But it was like I never thought that it would happen like that. And like that people just stood there and watched and walked by and nobody tried to help us. That kind of blows my mind a little bit. And it's all coming back to me now that there were people that just stood by and watched. And even after they left, no one came to help us. No one. And I wonder if those same people that watched us get beat up are now protesting on the streets for gay rights. Pretty hypocritical, don't you think? But I wonder. And so we left the scene. He lived really close to Ybor and we walked back and we just hung out at his house and we talked about what happened. We ended up still hooking up. Despite everything. And I remember hooking up with him and almost being grossed out by him because his eye was so weird and I just like couldn't look at him. I also was slightly traumatized. So I think a mix of like everything really, I don't even know how I ended up still hooking up with him. It was probably because I was 19 and horny as hell. But I remember being done hooking up with him and he wanted me to spend the night. So he's just laying there and he fell asleep. And I'm just laying there wide awake. Like, I don't think that I can sit here anymore. I don't think that I can be with this guy right now. And I don't think I can ever be with this guy because of the trauma we just endured together. There was no trauma bond for me in this situation. I wanted to get away from him and away from that as quickly as possible. And I honestly blacked out that entire story the moment I left his place. I left his place without telling him, and then I never talked to him again. And that's super fucked that I just kind of ghosted him at that point. But I was not okay. I didn't know how to react to that. I didn't know what to even say to him. And I even had a friend of his reach out to me and kind of tell me off later on because we all still kind of worked at the same, not the same store, but him and his friend worked at some kiosk in the mall. And I remember seeing them multiple times on my way to work and not really saying anything to them. But then his friend that worked with him did reach out and tell me off. And rightfully so. That was really fucked of me to ghost him afterwards. But like I said, I didn't know how to react. That was really, really difficult for me. And I'm honestly glad I blocked out that story from my mind pretty quickly. Otherwise, I could have spiraled and been scared to go outside ever again, or been scared to even be gay at that point. And my mind really does protect me a lot. It was a defense mechanism that I created when I was 14 and I believed that I died. And I'll tell you that story someday too, but that was the ultimate trauma. I really truly did, I think, die at 14 years old, and I've never grown up since then. And so watching myself throughout videos now, I realize how much growing I have to do. And I realize how much of me has been stifled and how much anger comes through everything that I say and do. So a huge reason that I created this channel and I tell you all of these stories that I don't tell anybody else is because I want to move past these things. I want to grow past age 14 and I want to never talk about them again. This is my diary and this is the only time I'll ever talk about this story. Unless of course I get famous and then I'm on TV and they interview me about it, then I'll have to, but had to throw some humor in here, okay? This is getting too depressing. Normally I ask you what you think about everything, but I'm sure after seeing this video, you'll have something to say. So thank you for listening and I'll catch you in the next video.